Alright guys, Murphs here, and today we're going to talk about the modularity of the Ruger 1022. Now if you're looking for an in-depth review on the Ruger 1022, go ahead and check out the link in the description to the original video. We're primarily going to focus on the wide variety of accessories and options that you have available to you with the Ruger 1022. Now with this discussion of modularity, we have to talk about where this originates from. And this has a lot to do with how the Ruger 1022 receiver is put together. So, first off, it was two screws, one on the barrel band and one in the stock and the bottom of the stock that allowed me to be able to get this receiver and barrel out of the stock to begin with. Then it's just popping these two pins here in order to be able to drop the trigger mechanism. After that, if you're wanting to strip away the barrel, all you have to do is remove these two bolts right here, which then allows this wedge to come off and the barrel comes off. Then you're left with just a pared down receiver that you can do almost whatever it is that you want with it. So in the discussion of barrels, if you wanted to go ahead and get, this is a sporter profile barrel, but let's say you wanted a lighter weight barrel. Let's say that you wanted some sort of heavyweight target grade barrel with flutes or just a bowl barrel type setup or whatever it is that it may be in order to be able to optimize this rifle for the purpose of target shooting. You could do that with this setup. In the Ruger takedowns, you can swap in I guess a barrel portion is the best way to say that, that has an integrated suppressor in order to be able to turn your 1022 into a little suppressed 22 critter gator. In addition to that, you can also install a threaded barrel so that you could put whatever suppressor or muzzle device it is that you wanted to on this barrel as well. So instead of having this plain barrel that we see here. When it comes to iron sights, you can go ahead and, these sights leave with the barrel. So your new barrel could have a different sight, it could have a different sight arrangement. You could, with the fact that you have screw or drilled and tapped holes across the top of the receiver, you could pop in whatever types of optics and stuff like that it is that you want to have on this. You can put magnified optics, you can put red dots, whatever it is that you want. The world is your oyster whenever it comes to what is accessible to Picatinny on this particular type of setup. So you combine an optic with a stainless steel heavy profile barrel, and now you've got yourself a little 22 plate rack shooter. You can take that to 22 rimfire competitions and stuff like that. You can throw a red dot on there and combine it with different stocks in order to make this something that would be very fun at like a steel challenge match for 22 rifles or whatever type of 22 match you might be getting yourself into. With the modularity of triggers, you can pop this out and then you can put in a binary trigger, which maybe not necessarily the epitome of practicality when it is that we're talking about a 22, but it sure does turn it into a fun little toy, which if a 22 isn't fun, then what's the point? That's the whole purpose behind 22 long rifle guns in general, is that the ammunition's still relatively cheap and they're fun little plinkers. In addition to being a fantastic opportunity to be able to train somebody on how to shoot a firearm well and safely. You can put in match grade triggers in order to make it more improved for your match type purposes, or perhaps your precision hunting type purposes with the 22 if you're out there going after squirrels and stuff like that. When it comes to stocks, there are no end to the variety and types of stocks that you could get for the Ruger 1022, ranging from the practical to the silly. So whenever it is that we're talking about practical, you can of course get like, say, Monte Carlo stocks in order to make it better situated for your shooting type purposes. You can get free floated stocks in order to better make it situated for your precision type purposes. You can get like side folder stocks if you would make like a AC556 light type setup. If you didn't necessarily have the money for an AC556, but you could get the Ruger side folding stock and then a binary trigger of some sort, now all of a sudden you can be the A-team on the cheap. That's a really cool opportunity, as well as being able to drop it into a variety of different types of tactical stocks that give you more accessibility to lights, lasers, optics, all those types of things, as well as a layout, though not a manual of arms, that would be very similar to perhaps your fighting or duty rifle or whatever it is that you plan on defending yourself with. Now, guys, generally whenever I talk about this, I don't like sub-caliber trainers. They have a place. I just don't think they're as applicable as getting in that same amount of trigger time on on the full power system. So your full size 5.56 or your Glock 19 as opposed to shooting a Glock 44. However, there is a utility in being able to shoot cheaper ammunition more often, as opposed to spending what it is that you are for 9mm and 5.56 or whatever else your gun might be chambered in. 22 ammunition is still going to be cheaper. So you can drop it in all these types of tactical chassis that I find funny because it takes something like the Ruger 1022 that in this state looks very benign, especially to your average anti-gun person. This does not look like a dangerous rifle. It looks like its name is like Josh or something like that, and he's got a 401k, and you know, he just shoots occasionally because, you know, guns are cool and all, but it's just not really, you know, he's not some sort of ultra right winger or anything along those lines. He ain't some tactical Ted or something like that. And you could drop this action into a rifle that looks like its name is Kevin, and he's seen some things, and it definitely scares the anti-gun crowd and all those types of things. And I always find that very funny. Now, of course, the standard Ruger 1022 runs with a 10-round rotary magazine. However, there have always been higher capacity options available, starting out with the Butler Creek, once a long time ago, 25-round magazines. And that was before Ruger decided to stop being a bunch of fuds and started producing their own 25-round magazines for the Ruger 1022. The Butler Creek mags were always very spotty on reliability. The Ruger mags are way better about reliability and all that kind of stuff. For a long time, for those of you who don't know, Ruger did not like tactical or high capacity firearms, what we would refer to today as standard capacity firearms. So they did not produce a factory 30-rounder for the Mini 14. They did not, for anyone but like law enforcement and military. They were not meant to be widely distributed. They did like the 10-round capacity bands for handguns and all those types of things. So Ruger has changed his tune in recent years, maybe a little too far on some things when it comes to quality control, but we can talk about that another time. Now, in addition to that, you can get other things to really benefit you to work around the Ruger manual of arms. Now, the original magazine release was a little button type setup tucked away way up in here. Now, you're seeing new Ruger 1022s come out with this lever here that assists you with being able to hit that release. This used to be something that you would add on. You can actually add on much longer ones in order to be able to do faster tactical mag changes with your Ruger 1022. Alright guys, this was just meant to be a quick flyby of how truly adaptable Ruger 1022 can be in order to perhaps increase your own interest. Leia, stop that. The cat's starting to play with the cables for my lights and all that kind of stuff. So this is something that you could take a very run-of-the-mill rifle and do a couple of little things to perhaps make it more interesting to you, to increase your overall pride of ownership. I think the best example is the fact that you can drop this action into a chassis that looks like an MG42 or even an FG42. And while the gun is not an FG or MG42, it's not chambered in 8mm Mauser, it does not fire at 1,200 rounds a minute or the much lower rate of fire for the FG42, it still looks like one. And if that gives you the giggle factor in order to, you know, make you excited to go to the range, then I see no issue with that. Or even if it just is something to impress your friends, they walk into your gun room or whatever, and they see, you know, an MG42 looking thing lying off to the side, and they're like, "Man, is that an MG42?" You get the pride for just a moment of being like, they believe I'm that cool that I can afford an MG42. I'm not, of course, because those machine guns are outrageously expensive, and the ammunition is more and more difficult to come by, like especially linked 8mm Mauser. But for a moment in time, you are that person. And if that is worth it to you, then more power to you. Alright guys, I think that pretty much covers my thoughts on this particular subject. I hope you guys found this interesting. That's pretty much what I got. Have a good day.